It is make or break time for the fantasy football season. You could be 5-3. You could be 3-5. Shit, you could be 4-4. These are important weeks. You're either a couple wins away from punching your ticket to the fantasy playoffs, potentially securing a bye, or if you don't start winning here shortly, your playoff dreams are goodbye. It's not going to make it. And we don't want that here on the Regression Mean podcast. We want everyone who listens to our show to make the playoffs. So in today's episode, we have got our top 52 wide receivers here for week 9 of the NFL season. I'm your host, Sean Moran. I'm joined by my good friend, my fellow co-host, and my fellow knower of ball, Aiden Holler. Aiden, how we doing today, man?
Doing well. I love talking about wide receivers. Wide receivers are just so much deeper. They're like, I just get like tingly feelings when I look at these rankings every week, and I start like thinking about all these guys. So I'm excited, man. I can't believe it's already week 9. So yeah, like you mentioned, I've got some teams that are in must-win mode. So your intro hit home to me.
Oh, it is every week the fantasy season's must win because you gotta stack those wins.
The more you win early, the better.
Gotta stack them, baby. It is true though. The more you win early, the better, because you could get hit by Nico Collins and Rashee Rice and CMC and Jordan Mason and Debo Saint. Yeah, whatever. I digress. Okay, so today's episode's pretty simple. I've ranked 52 receivers. I've broken them into 6 tiers. We're going to go tier by tier. I'm going to share guys that I'm higher or lower on versus Fantasy Pros expert consensus rankings. We'll do our best to cover each guy. We probably won't, but we'll do our best to try and talk on all of these guys that we think are fantasy relevant for the week. As always, my rankings are here in the show notes of the episode. So if you want to click on it and bounce around, see kind of the data I look at, my projections, our overall RTM score for each player in terms of their matchup for the week, feel free to reference that. They're completely free. Leverage them at your disposal. In terms of how my rankings work and how they operate, I take into account a bunch of different factors. I look at implied team total rank. I look at fantasy point production over the past 4 weeks, expected fantasy point production, like i.e. usage over the past 4 weeks. I try to see how efficient this player is. Are they a positive or negative regression candidate? And then I take a look at their matchup. What are their opposing defenses doing against receivers? What is their rank? How many points per game they give it up? I've got a projection. I've got a composite RTM score, which is essentially just ranking that player's matchup for the week. And yeah, man. You ready to dive in, Aiden? You ready to do this? Wait. Actually, no, we're not ready to dive in because
there's something we need to cover first.
Yeah, I'm sure there are people here that are watching the Regression to Me podcast for the very first time. They clicked on a thumbnail. They're just like, what are these guys talking about? Why are they talking about stacking wins? What should those people do, Aiden, if this is their first time watching our channel?
What should they do? First of all, welcome to the program. Welcome to the Mean Team, as we call the team here on the channel. If you're so lucky to have stumbled upon us, sit down, enjoy the show. We keep it pretty light. Sean's been working on what we call, the model, the algo. We kind of play around with it. But there really is some good analytics we put into it. So, pretty light. We've got some good stuff for you. Like, comment, subscribe, whatever you're feeling. Sean also puts everything down in the comments. So if you guys want to skip around, you could even just pause it, look down. Sean's got the names down there too. So we make it real easy for you. You can hang with us for 50 minutes. You can hang with us for 5 and skip around. Whatever you want, man. We're here to help you guys and hopefully win you guys some championships. So, yeah, enjoy the show. We're happy to have you.
Oh, that's fire. Whether you're with us for 5 or 50 minutes, man, we want you to get the most out of this. I just got the chills. That's our new slogan.
That's what it's all about.
All about. Okay. 6 tiers, wide receivers, top 52. Start with the top 7 here, which is tier 1. CeeDee Lamb at 1, Justin Jefferson at 2, AJ Brown 3, Jamar Chase at 4, Garrett Wilson at 5, Amon-Ra St. Brown at 6, and Drake London at 7. So last week I was low on CeeDee. I was like, hey guys, like the usage hasn't really been there. And then Keegan was like, post by CeeDee. It's a thing. It's a force of nature.
It's fucking real, dude. Holy shit.
Well, the usage changed pretty dramatically for CeeDee Lamb. Put up one of those classic CeeDee stat lines last week. Was by far and away the wide receiver 1, showing out for where you drafted CeeDee Lamb over the past 4 weeks because of that huge game. Top 2 in production, top 3 in usage. Atlanta is a top 12 matchup for wide receivers. Scream and start here for CeeDee Lamb. You're going to be happy to fire him up. You're going to be happy to fire up any of these guys. Justin Jefferson has a pretty solid matchup here on paper. Buff Batman is my highest projected player on the slate based off of this matchup here against Jacksonville for A.J. Brown. Jamar Chase has been the wide receiver 1 over the past month. He has Las Vegas has been fine, but, they're beatable defense. I'm really high on Garrett Wilson. His usage has been nuts, even with Davante Adams. It's almost like that narrative where it was going to be good for him. That might be coming to fruition here because he's the top wide receiver in terms of usage over the past month, and that's including 2 Tay games. Tay's primarily been the slot receiver. It's kind of really opened things up for Garrett Wilson here. So I'm sure I'll get your thoughts on that ranking because I've got him 7 spots ahead of ECR. Amon-Ra St. Brown has just been kind of the victim of weird game scripts and kind of a kumbaya offense is what I call it, of just everyone gets to eat. Khalif Raymond, you get a touchdown. Fucking offensive lineman, you get a touchdown. It kind of eats into a little bit of Amon-Ra St. Brown's ceiling. And I got Drake London here. Great matchup for London. One of the higher RTM scores in the week. Firmly a top 10 play against Dallas. Aiden, I'll pause here. What are your thoughts on tier 1? Any omissions? Anyone you're excited about? Curious to know your thoughts.
Yeah, I want to start with 2 guys, as I didn't realize their exact stat lines. I knew CeeDee had a good game. I only watched the second half.
Nuts.
13 of 17 targets, 146 for 2 tutties. I knew he had a good game. I didn't get CeeDee, nor do I own him in any leagues this year, unfortunately. So, I didn't really realize how big it was. So, absolute monster spot. Keegan nailed it. The post CeeDee bump is real. Alternatively, ARSB. I knew they didn't pass it much. He had 2 catches for 7 yards and a touchdown. He has scored in 5 straight games, which is just a testament of that offense. Uber productive. So I expect a bigger game there. I think Green Bay keeps it much closer than a pretty lousy Tennessee Titans team. I want to get to Garrett Wilson too, as you mentioned, averaging over 20 fantasy points in PPR formats over the last 4 weeks. Like you meant, 2 of those with Tay, but they just work well together. We needed another talented person in that offense to take attention away from him. No disrespect to Alan Lazard, who is actually on his way to the IR, but he is nothing like Davante Adams, which I think is a pretty fair statement. 2 of them working very well together. It's been fun to watch. He's averaging, about 100 yards over that span, cleared 103 out of 4 games. So really cool there. And then Drake London came back down to earth a little bit last week. His worst outing since week 1, but still very involved in the offense. Saw, I think it was 7 targets. So it's not 6 targets. Not like he was a total non-factor. So look for him to get back in the scoring column, get you 10, 15 or more points. Great tier here, though. You can't go wrong with any of these dudes.
Awesome tier here. I just miss Nico and Rishi, but I won't spend.
It is derailed 2 of my seasons.
I miss the Rod God. Oh man. My Drake London take still counts, I guess. He's top 7 with everyone heard. So okay, whatever. I'll stop pandering. Okay, we're gonna go on to tier 2 here. Start all 7 of these guys. Seriously, they all have great matchups. Okay, tier 2. I got wide receivers 8 through 17. I've got some hot takes in this tier. I'm excited to talk through a little bit. I have Cooper Kupp at 8, Puka Nacua at 9, Terry McLaurin at 10, Josh Downs at 11. T. Higgins, 12, Zay Flowers, 13, Chris Olave, 14, DeVonta Smith, 15, Tyreek Hill, 16, and Malik Nabers, 17. Okay, so I'm going to start things off really quickly. T. Higgins is not practicing yet this week. So he may get booted here pretty quickly from this tier. But if he plays, I think he's a top 12 play based off of his usage and production. The Rams guys. So Cooper Kupp, higher expected fantasy points per game usage. Puka Nacua, higher production. That's kind of how it was when they played last year. I think it's more of the same. Kupp's going to get used more in the red zone. He's going to get used on the money 3rd downs. He gets screens called for him. but they're going to eat into each other's ceiling, but they're going to play off each other really nicely. It's going to be two fringe wide receiver 1 types when they're both playing. If any one of them gets hurt, though, moon them. They're going to be top 5 in terms of usage and production. I've got Josh Downs super high up. I've got him 8 spots ahead of ECR. So the Anthony Richardson thing happened. So let's address this. I'm a pretty big A-Rich guy. I've been since we started this podcast. I was pretty conflicted on all this, on how it went down. But after listening to some podcasts and some people in the know, it kind of sounded like A-Rich was behind the curve in terms of his attention to detail and not necessarily being a professional quarterback, which is a bummer. I've got him on some dynasty teams, and I'm a big A-Rich stockholder, but sounds like sitting him down is the best thing right now for his career and also for the Colts. And it's a big win if you have Josh Downs or Michael Pittman. Joe Flacco, I don't necessarily know how much better he makes their top line offense in terms of points per game, but down in and down out, it's going to be much more consistent. It's going to be much more projectable. You're going to feel really good about Josh Downs, and he's got an incredible matchup here against Minnesota. Minnesota is giving up the most fantasy points per game to wide receivers. Josh Downs, doesn't matter what quarterback's been in there, he's been the wide receiver 1 in this offense. You have to feel very excited about Josh Downs this week. I've got thoughts on other guys in this tier, but I'll pause here because I just monologued. Any thoughts on kind of some of the guys I've talked about, or just general thoughts in the tier, and I can finish up after Aiden?
Yeah, I think starting with Puka, wow, man, like I may have been a little wrong about you. That was impressive last week. That was
Puka.
that was nuts. Yeah, the guy's a stud.
Stud.
Full route tree. Like
Boss.
Last year, I wouldn't say like hard to evaluate, but like it was just like, what's the role gonna look like with Cooper Kupp? And it was pretty clear, like you said. Cooper Kupp is probably gonna be like more of the volume play, whereas Puka, is kind of more of like your big play guy, kind of like deeper plays. So both guys are must starts, wide receiver 1s. Josh Downs, like you mentioned, like it's an aggressive ranking, but like it's not that crazy. If you look at the 3 games that Joe Flacco, or the 2 games that he started, plus the game that A-Rich went out, he scored 22 points, 16 points, and 19 points. It's his fantasy floor and ceiling are much higher with Joe Flacco at QB right now. So we're all sad to see A-Rich. I've got a ton of him in best ball. I had him in some redraft teams as well. Bummer to see him sit, but it's maybe for the best right now. And then last, I didn't talk about the other Batman in the first tier, but really good matchup for DeVonta Smith. Both of these guys this week against Jacksonville, bottom 5 matchup in terms of the passing offense. So really excited. I think, both of the Eagles receivers should go to work. Ideally, they don't go up big early, or else like couldn't be a negative game script for them. But don't look now, but the Jags are playing a lot better. Trevor Lawrence has
been
one
in
of
there.
the best QBs in football the last 3-4 weeks in terms of like EPA and just overall performance. So I see this game being closer than I think a lot of people are going to anticipate, which bodes well for that entire passing attack.
Yeah, their defense is so bad that the Jags are kind of forced just to throw to get into it, and the rapport with Brian Thomas has been pretty big. I'd be a little nervous if Brian Thomas
playing. Yeah, I
doesn't play. He's been limited back-to-back days this week, so he's been limited. We'll get to Thomas in a second, but I do think that the lack of Brian Thomas and the lack of Christian Kirk and Gabe Davis does impact game script, and potentially could see the Jags go down big, which we don't want. We want a full complement of DeVonta Smith targets.
Yep.
Okay, so I wanted to talk about 2 guys at the bottom of this tier that are ranked super high on ECR. They're 6 and 7. I've got them at 16 and 17, so down 10 spots on both these guys. Tyreek Hill, I've got him at wide receiver 16. He averages 11.5 fantasy points per game against the Bills in his career. So whatever Sean McDermott has done against Tyreek Hill,
it's bad.
It just works.
Yeah, it's really bad.
Just works. Tyreek Hill is just, I've again, I draft Tyreek every single year. It's every time he plays the Bills, I'm like, whatever. He's going to score like 13 points. It's not going to be that exciting. Malik Nabers. So Nabers' usage has been pretty good over the past 4 weeks. I just think this offense is trending towards broken right now without Andrew Thomas. Daniel Jones is starting to trend towards getting benched. Washington's defense, you're going to see their 13th best matchup, but their Washington defense is gotten better. You got to watch it firsthand against the Bears last week. Like Dan Quinn's a good coach.
Yeah.
So like
those are two good call outs. Yeah, no, those are two.
I just wouldn't like. I'm like not saying to bench these guys, but
no, you have to play them because
you're gonna see in Sleeper or Yahoo or ESPN, you're gonna see their projection at 15, 16, 17 points. I just don't see it at that level, based off of just the matchup and the scores and everything. So just something to keep in mind here with those two guys. Outside of that, Zay Flowers, I don't think the addition of Deontay Johnson impacts him. I don't know how reliable Josina Anderson is on Twitter, but the report is pretty bad for Deontay Johnson in terms of how the Ravens are viewing him for fantasy. Like disaster, like clear Nelson Aguilar replacement in 3 wide receiver sets is what he's been labeled.
Right. That can't be right.
And punt returning got mentioned.
No shot.
That was what was mentioned in this Josina Anderson tweet. She said punt returning was one of the reasons they got him.
I guess they didn't pay much, but that's a waste of talent if that's
that doesn't really make sense. I just look, we all like Bateman. We're big Bateman and we're big Zay guys, but
2 wide receiver sets is DJ and Zay. Like no questions asked.
I will say everyone likes to say, oh, the fantasy community overrates Deontay Johnson. Well, everywhere he fucking goes, he gets a 25% target share. So
he's always open.
I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you. Quarterbacks like to throw to guys who are open, and he is always open. So I don't. Yeah. We'll see. I would not play Deontay. Deontay Johnson is not my rankings this week. I would not play him. No, I wouldn't play Bateman either. I think that it's clearly a Zay week. Play him. Denver is rough on receivers anyway. Let this whole thing kind of figure itself out with the Ravens pass catchers. All right, we'll move on to tier 3 here. Wide receivers 18 to 25. I've got Davante Adams, Brian Thomas, Marvin Harrison, DJ Moore, Ladd McConkey, DK Metcalf, Darnell Mooney, Courtland Sutton. Davante Adams, we've highlighted it. He's primarily been working out of the slot. Usage has not been good, and the production has not been good. Houston has been beatable by wide receivers, so it could potentially be his breakout moment here with the Jets. But I don't know. We're recording this Thursday, by the way. This is an FYI. So I mean, you're gonna play Davante. I don't see him as a top 14 play this week. Brian Thomas, great spot to play him if he's healthy. Now, I will say the Eagles, this says 10 here against opposing wide receivers in terms of fantasy. Their defense is trending up big time. Cooper DeJean looks, he looks like a guy. So that defense is kind of gelling together at the right time. Marvin Harrison, they gave him a true complement of routes this past week. It looked really good, but
who would have thought?
Chicago's rough on receivers. So, I mean, obviously you're going to play him. You're not benching Marvin Harrison. That'd be kind of galaxy brain, but I need to get your opinion on DJ Moore.
I don't know.
Can you trust anyone in this offense? Week in and week out, it's like the most. It's like
you have to start it.
It's like a not as fun 49ers offense where you'd you start one of the Niners guys last year and it's like, well, this might not be the Ayuk week, but if it hits, it hits. It's like this is a less fun version of that with the Bears where you have no idea which receiver is going to do well or which tight end is going to do well.
Yeah, the way they use it should be him and Rome. It should be Keenan. The reports were fair about Keenan in the offseason. Keenan definitely looks like he's lost a step. It would be beneficial for this offense to be a 2-man funnel between him and Rome. But there's no gimmies. We talked about this with Arizona last week. We talked about this with Jacksonville recently. It's Shane Waldron is not getting DJ Moore or Rome any just gimmies aside from failed screens, which, the screens aren't going anywhere. It's just the entire scheme is puzzling. So DJ is the only one that I think you can start that you should be starting, but it's not even confidently right now. The guy back-to-back games with less than 6 points. It's but you just know you have to do it given where you drafted him and the prospect profile with him. So that's a bad defense though. It's a bad defense, but so is Washington. So you'd expect, we're in double digits. Ideally, you score a touchdown or something. But yeah, it's
Top
Buzzword.
46 usage for DJ Moore is criminal. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Let's get him the rock. Come on.
I'd like that.
Lad McConkey. Wow,
Welcome
it's happening.
to the NFL.
It's happening. It's
That was
did
awesome.
you see Harbaugh's comp for Lad McConkey?
No.
Steve Smith.
Yeah.
Pretty
I get
sweet
it.
comp.
No, I get it.
Agent 89 is kind of hollow territory, but like that was a Steve Smith touchdown across the boundary where he mossed the guy.
Awesome. Yeah.
He did his like pivot. Lad is so good in space. That's why like the comments that people comp him to in terms of wide receivers never really made sense. It's like, no, Lad's a demon when he gets the ball in his hands.
Yeah. No, it's
what
great. Like a little underside, but just scrappy as fuck. Very fast, strong hands. Yeah, no, it totally makes sense.
DK, he's probably going to play. Again, we're recording this Thursday. Seattle doesn't practice till 7 p.m. I know I never will understand Seattle's practice times, but you don't get it until like the evening. So I have no idea if DK Metcalf practiced tonight. And the only reason I know that is because I've drafted Kenneth Walker for 3 years, so I'm very aware of the Seattle.
They are optimistic he's going to return, whatever that means. But yeah, until we see what happens today and on Friday,
he probably plays. He probably plays. If he plays, you start him. Rams have been pretty good against wide receivers, but you play him. The Moon Man.
So happy for him.
He's legitimately a wide receiver one in usage and production over the past month. It is kind of nuts. He's honestly one of the NFL's most improved players. He's like a downfield wide receiver, like winner. Like he's playing the Ayuk role right now.
Always was. No, yeah, no, that's a great comp. Yeah, it's him and Drake London have just been like such good compliments to each other. They make a ton of sense in the same offense. So like you could probably make a case to move him up even higher.
Probably
13 on the year. You know he's going to see probably 5 to 10 targets again. He's a good bet to score. The Moon Man resurgence has been pretty sweet.
And then you got Courtland Sutton here. The Ravens are a pass funnel, so they basically just give up all their points through the air. But like every time you think Troy Franklin's going to break out, and it's like, nope, joke's on you. Courtland Sutton's just going to take all the targets. I have no idea how to predict this offense, but I mean, it's a good spot on paper. It's a good spot for Sutton.
Yeah, he went from 0 targets to 11. Had 8 catches, 100 yards. So it's like, I have no idea. But Bo Nix playing well is good for Courtland Sutton. He's a wide receiver too right now.
All right, any thoughts on tier 3 before we get to tier 4?
No, I think really happy for Marvin Harrison though. Like looking at the routes he ran in terms of like the post game, like the routes he ran, it made sense. Like stop having him run just like the sacrificial X, clear out routes. Get this guy running in breakers, get this guy running across the middle of the field, and it worked really well. So tough matchup, but I still think he probably scores you 10 plus.
What a shocker when you use the 4th overall pick. Like actually use him.
That's what I need with Rome, bro. That's what I need with Rome.
Rome's getting the JSN treatment. It's tough. Sometimes you can have
from Waldron too.
Sometimes you can have too many receivers. Like this is something I'd have to actually dive into, but sometimes it's almost like you got too many. Like, just simplify it. Just simplify it. It's like kind of like the Packers a little bit.
For sure.
Speaking of the Packers, they're in this tier. So I've got tier 4 here, wide receivers 26 through 38. I got 12 receivers. So I got Khalil Shakir, Jayden Reed, Tank Dell, Xavier Worthy, Calvin Ridley, Jakobi Meyers, Michael Pittman, Keenan Allen, Keon Coleman, Romeo Doubs, Cedric Tillman, Jackson Smith-Njigba, and Jalen Waddle. So I've got a call out here on the 2 Packers receivers. So I got Reed at 27, Romeo Doubs at 35. These guys are going all the way up. Like they're each jumping. Reed probably jumps 2 tiers. So like I've got T. Higgins at 13, right? So if Jordan Love plays, I'm just gonna rip out Jayden Reed, put him at 13. And I'm gonna move Romeo Doubs up because this is such a juicy matchup against Detroit. Detroit has given the 3rd most fantasy points per game to wide receivers. Dobbs' usage has been awesome, and his production has been great. And same with Jayden Reed. I mean, he's cooled off over the past month. But Jayden Reed's a walking bucket. All it takes is like 5 or 6 targets, And this Lions defense, that's how you beat them. It's very hard to run on them. So if Love plays, these guys are going way up the ranks. If Love doesn't play, you can make an argument that I'm too high on Reed and Dobbs, that I could lower them even more.
I think
so.
Reed is safer. Dobbs is the one that I would have more concerns about personally, because like Reed's going to get at least some end arounds and some quick hitter. Like he's going to get the ball, whereas Dobbs' touches are not guaranteed without Jordan Love, in my opinion.
So what's his name played? So when did Malik Willis play? I'm going to pull this up here. Malik Willis played weeks 2 and 3. So Dobbs had 9.2 points in week 2, and he had 2.8 points in week 3. Jayden Reed 6 points and 11 points.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's not great.
No, it's not.
We need you to play Jordan. Outside of those two, it is really funny that everyone is eating in the Bills offense with Amari Cooper playing, except for Amari Cooper. It's like Amari Cooper's out there. It's like, Khalil Shakir. He's not getting much scrutiny. You got Keon Coleman going off, right? Like, it's so funny. He will. I think I'm low on Amari Cooper this week. He's in the next tier, spoiler, but I do think it's funny that the two younger guys are doing quite well with Cooper now kind of properly being an X wide receiver, a professional, like borderline elite X wide receiver. Two other guys I want to call out in this tier really quickly. Tank Dell, great usage, is trending up, but he's just not the same guy right now post-injury.
No, he's not.
I don't think it's curtains for Tank Dell, but it has not been pretty for him. And then Xavier Worthy's had 8 targets in back-to-back weeks. He's had multiple, 60-yard touchdowns, just misplaced out of his hands. Like, he is so close to having a huge week. And Tampa Bay, you can just gut him through the air, man. And
yeah, this could be a big spot for him.
I think this is a huge Xavier Worthy spot, if there ever was one. So I'm high on Worthy. I think you could even get him a little bit higher. But I don't know. We could go in a bunch of different directions with this tier. But anyone else, speaking your language, anyone else you want to call out?
Yeah. Cedric Tillman here. Pretty tough matchup. I know a lot of people probably, either got him on waivers last week or this week if you relate to the party, but I'd say temper expectations to some degree. This is a really good secondary, really good defense in general. So keep an eye on that one. Then Michael Pittman as well. I think he gets a bump with Joe Flacco. Wasn't phenomenal in Joe Flacco's first couple starts. He did score his 2 touchdowns with Flacco under center and had that big game against Pittsburgh. So I think he definitely gets a bump here as well. Don't be surprised if he has a good game there too. But Calvin Ridley as well, dude. What the hell was his stat line? That dude went nuts.
10 for 145. I watched the curtain call replay of every one of his starts. Holy shit, he was looking good, dude. He looked awesome. It was nothing cheap about it, man. He was running a full complement, full field route tree, nasty stuff from Calvin Ridley. He looked so good.
I forget who was calling that game, but it was like it was addition by subtraction to a degree in that offense. It felt like everyone was just more comfortable in their roles without Hopkins in the fold, which is crazy. Like Hopkins, absolute stud, potential Hall of Famer, but it just felt like all the roles made sense. Calvin Ridley looked a lot comfortable. The running game looked comfortable. Even Mason Rudolph was actually kind of dicing up early. It got away from them and got away from them fast in the second quarter there, but they were moving the ball pretty damn efficiently the first, call it quarter and a half, 2 quarters of that football game.
Yeah, I'd say so. Again, Rudolph isn't a great quarterback, but he's good enough to where you can determine if giving Calvin Ridley a big contract was worth it, right? Like, you're just trying to evaluate what you got
Calvin
here.
Ridley is a good football player still. It's just
he definitely looked it, and it's just been an LOL season for him because his usage has been top 5 over the past month, and he's been the wide receiver 55. So anytime you see that shit, it's so cruel, and I'm always like, man, or LOL, or I'm always putting these dumb notes in the doc, but it's insane when you see that shit. It's looking worthy 45 spots off of his usage. Tank Dell 36 spots, Calvin Ridley 50, JSN 32, Jalen Waddle, 38. So on paper, these guys are due, but they also might just not be that good.
The JSN stuff continues to just really
weird.
upset me.
I don't get it, man. I really don't get it.
They had him run a route last week, down the let's open up his route tree a little more. He doesn't just have to be slants and quick outs. He ran deep routes at Ohio State. Let's open it up. The guy's talented.
Gino and him don't have a good rapport. Remember last year, Drew Lock came in and threw a 50-yard game-winning touchdown to JSN,
on the freaking money. Yeah,
I don't really know what his deal is with Njigba, but we watch it. We call this out because I watch these games and I'm like, JSN was 3 random plays away from having a monster day, and for some reason, Gino can only hit him on 5-yard slants, and it
still might be coming. We're so close. Dude, it's 5+ targets every game. He had 69 yards last week, 12.9. That's pretty respectable in PPR. But we got to start getting some touchdowns. We got to start getting some big plays. He's too explosive not to.
He's been the wide receiver 24, I think, on the season. Where you drafted him, not a miss, but definitely not a hit, man. Could have had Brian Thomas. It's been fine.
You probably haven't won a ton of games with JSN, which is
I've actually done okay because he's my wide receiver 3 or 4.
Yeah,
where I'm playing in the double flex
most of the year for me.
So he gives me it's I put him in the lineup. I'm not afraid. I'm really not afraid he's going to hurt me, right? But I'm not that excited about his ceiling.
Just go get 5 or 10 points and keep it moving.
Also, Jalen Waddle has been one of the worst picks in all of fantasy. That guy is not a focal point of the offense. Sorry, Keegan.
That's a bummer.
All right. Next tier, guys, here. I'm very excited if you've made it this far into the episode. I'm very, very pumped to talk about this tier. Wide receivers 39 to 46. So I've got Wan'Dale Robinson, 39, Jordan Addison, 40, Amari Cooper, 41, Xavier Legette, 42, Jalen Coker, 43, Elijah Moore, 44, 46, Jalen McMillan. These are the guys. These are the receivers for the most part that I do it for. These are the ones you pick up on the waiver. You like their usage. You feel like you got a hidden gem. You put them in the lineup. They do well, right? These are the types of stuff I live for. Not always sustainable throughout the year, but definitely for spurts. So I'll start here first. Wan'Dale trending down. Top 40 usage, top 55 production. I'm a big Wan'Dale guy, but it's been rough since Tyrone Tracy's become a star. Basically, they're just checking it down. It's basically all their run game. Wan'Dale was an extension of the run game, and then it was all right, actually we had Tyrone Tracy, so we might as well use a guy who's actually good. Jordan Addison, I still don't get it. He does not get targets. I don't know how you can start him. Especially now with TJ Hawkinson coming back, I would not start Jordan Addison this week. And he's going to need to catch a huge touchdown, but you can get that from somewhere else, in my opinion. Amari Cooper, this one can change very quickly. I'm down 18 spots against ECR. His usage has been pretty bad. His production's been even worse. All it takes is one game where he gets eight targets with the Bills, pumping him back up. That's just how I'm kind of approaching Cooper. Panthers, Legette and Coker. Dude, I'm high on Jalen Coker, man.
Tell us about Jalen Coker.
So Jalen Coker, undrafted rookie from Holy Cross. Really exceptional route runner. Gets open, professional NFL route runner already as a rookie. And then he tested super well. So he's an athlete. I believe one of the reasons they traded Deontay Johnson was to get Coker on the field. And I like Legette. Legette's fun. I don't think, and it's funny because one was a first-round pick and one guy was undrafted. If you watch them, I don't think there's that big of a gap between the two in terms of talent, right? It's name brand, off brand. Coker plays last week with Bryce Young, catches 4 of 6 targets for 78 yards and a touchdown. And these were not gimme targets, man. These are downfield big boy routes that he's winning, contested catch along the boundary. Getting 3 targets in the end zone in this game.
I think Puka got hurt.
What do you mean Puka got hurt?
I think Puka left with a knee injury.
No.
Breaking news.
How bad?
I don't know. Left early. Left practice with a knee injury. I don't know. He didn't get carded, which is good, but he did leave.
He just re-aggravated his knee injury?
Yeah, keep an eye on that if you're here. Puka, And then Cooper Kupp, like Sean said, becomes a top 5 play pretty easily.
It was the same. It was the same knee that he hurt.
Yeah, that's a fat bummer. Sorry, I tried to derail the Jalen Coker, the Jalen Coker spiel.
Yeah, now I need to go pick up Tutu Atwell. This is a nightmare. This is
to your point around Jalen Coker. I do want to add on now that I've like hijacked the conversation. It looks smoother. It feels like like Jalen Coker is like a circle. It's smooth. Things just look a lot cleaner. Whereas like watching XL get in and out of his breaks is it's just a bit more rough around the edges. So I didn't prioritize him very much this week on waivers, but after watching some of the highlights, after doing some more research, I'm like, this kind of feels like the guy you want in that offense going forward for the rest of the year, especially in terms of like who Bryce Young has succeeded with throwing the football. Like Jalen Coker has by far been the biggest beneficiary in terms of like his success rate while targeting Panthers wide receivers. So I'm totally fine with your ranking here on Jalen Coker. Like at some point, like one of these wide receivers are gonna emerge, I think, as the one we want, and it's a good bet to it's just Jalen Coker. So I like
Coker.
It's aggressive, but I like it.
You know who Coker reminds me of? The way he runs routes. He reminds me of Amari Cooper kind of.
Oh yeah.
You watch him run routes, dude. It's professional as hell. Like, it's funny that I've got them near each other, but this is a real route runner, dudes. I know, because I was going to say, ladies and gentlemen, dudes, this guy's legit. I'm telling you, if he's out there on the waiver wire, go pick him up. He's going to save my season. He's going to save my season, Jalen Coker is.
You got to buy a jersey if Jalen Coker wins you a ship.
Dude, he's so much better than Jalen McMillan. A rough day for Keegan. I'm shitting on Addison. I'm shitting on Waddle.
No, Jalen's good. Dude, no, McMillan's good.
Dude, I don't think McMillan's that good.
If Baker doesn't miss him on a like he walks in from 60 yards if Baker doesn't miss him.
He had a 14% target share. He's getting his lunch taken from Kate Otten, who's now a superstar.
Good. No, Kate Otten's good. He led the team in targets in the wide receiver room.
But at 14%, this offense is now built around tight ends and running backs. Like, just
correct. But I think he's going to get more comfortable with Jalen McMillan as the year goes on, especially once Mike Evans comes back too. I think Jalen McMillan's a wide receiver too, and I think once he slots into that role, he'll succeed. So we need Michael to get back.
We do. Also, Elijah Moore, if you didn't give up yet, he led the Browns in first read target percentage last week, so he's playable. He just flat out is. All right, last tier of guys here. Wide receivers 47 to 52. Some familiar names, some interesting names. I've got DeAndre Hopkins, Roma Dunze, Jalen Tolbert, Jerry Jeudy, DeMario, Pop Douglas, Demarcus Robinson, Khalif Raymond. So let's start things off. If Puka is hurt, you're going to have to move Demarcus Robinson up the ranks. Or Correct. Tutu or Whittington. Oh, God, this is going to mess with my head. Oh,
this
no.
Is a fucking nightmare. Yeah, welcome back to week 3.
Oh, man.
Trying to figure out who to play.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, no. Keep an eye on that Puka injury news. If you need a receiver streamer like I do this week, I'm going to be locked the F in. I don't know, dude.
I'm excited for Hopkins.
Yeah.
Andy Reid was on record this week. I forget what the exact quote was, but like we're going to see more Hopkins this week, which makes sense. He's got, almost 2 weeks in the offense now. It's so hard to come in and make an impact like that with a short week in the NFL. Like these playbooks, especially Andy Reid's, that dude's playbook's got to be freaking phone book. So I do think Hopkins makes more of an impact in terms of some of these other guys. Jeudy actually had a good game too. I did miss Elijah Moore. I like both of these guys here at the bottom of it. That passing attack has been resurrected with Jabo. So I don't hate this tier, though. We get to the end of running backs, and I'm like, I got to hold it down. I start to get a little queasy, whereas these guys, I'm like, these are fun starts. Toss Rome in the flex, toss Pop Douglas in the flex. Like,
I do not want to toss Pop Douglas in the flex because he's in one of my double flexes right now. Bro,
see, though.
Douglas is brutal. Oh my goodness, man. Douglas is brutal. They can't get this. Hey, May's practice back-to-back days, though. So it sounds like May's going to clear
I
concussion
think he's
protocol
gonna
pretty
play.
quick.
Yeah,
So,
I think he's
like,
gonna play.
if Drake May's out there, you got to play Pop Douglas. But he's just not the focal point of their passing attack. Their focal point of their passing attack is Hunter Henry. So, what are you going to do, man?
And Kayshon Boutte.
Well, he's their deep downfield guy. So, but the over the middle part of the field is all Hunter Henry. Rightfully so. Dude's a dog.
Yeah,
So,
I agree.
I mean, that's kind of like, I feel like if they go up tempo and start throwing it and keep Douglas on the field, like he just gets open, so he's going to get the rock. But okay, we're talking way too much Pop Douglas here. Okay. Before we get out of here, who's one receiver that you're very excited to watch this week?
One guy who I'm very excited to watch this week.
Non-Jalen Coker. Non-Jalen Coker this week.
Who am I excited to watch this week? I'm excited to watch Tank Dell tonight. It's been pretty ugly, but I'm curious what happens. Like, we've seen him without Nika. We've seen him without Stephon Diggs. I don't think he's going to get the sauce treatment. I don't think he plays on the outside enough. That's probably going to be Xavier Hutchinson or something. But I don't know. I'm excited to watch Tank Dell.
It's John Mechie's season, bro. I don't know what to tell you.
I know. I'm excited for Mechie too, but I'm excited for Tank Dell. I think he's going to get stronger as the year goes on, like we saw with Tony Pollard. Maybe it doesn't happen until a little later in the season, but I am excited for Tank Dell.
Man, for me, I feel like I say this every week, but I'm very excited to see Xavier Worthy. Can we hit home on one of these big plays? But dude, it's Josh Downs for me. I put him in the top 12. I'm ready to rock with Josh Downs, baby.
That's fair.
Let's go.
No, that's a good one.
All right. This episode's coming out Saturday. Running backs in the feed Friday. Aiden, anything you got to say to the listeners at home?
Keegan's not here with us tonight, but good luck
to
the Jets tonight. Yeah, go Jets tonight. If you're gambling, actually, you probably won't hear this until Saturday. This is the rattiest line I've seen all year. I think the Jets are favored by like 2 or 3 points, 2 and 6 versus 6v2. So, no, this is. I don't know which side's right, but what an absolute rat line! It makes no sense.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to do with the Jets. I didn't watch last weekend. I was shocked that.
Just fire up G-Dub, fire up Brees, and whatever else happens.
I was absolutely shocked to see that they lost to Jakobi Brissett. That is a all-timer.
Zerline, right? Who's their kicker? Is it Zerline?
Zerline, the fact that he is still a part of that offense is absurd to me. So
yeah, you probably should have cut him. There's guys waiting to kick right now. That could do better than Greg Zerline.
All right, man. Well, thank you for joining. Go Jets tonight for Keegan's sanity. Go Bears.
Go Jets.
Niners have the week off, so I get to take a break from yelling at Kyle Shanahan for the week.
Lucky you.
All right, Aiden. Thank you for hopping on and joining, and thank you everybody for tuning in. Until next time.